Hello, everyone. This is Gilgamesh. And today we have an exciting verse from Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 16. And it says, Mare ha'ofanim u'ma'asehem ka'ain tarshish u'damot achat la'arbatan u'marehen u'ma'asehen ka'asher yeh ha'ofan batoch ha'ofan. So roughly translating this is the appearance of the wheels and their work like the eye of Tarshish, and appearances 1 to the 4 of them, and their appearances and their work according to it was the wheel in the midst of the wheel. Okay, admittedly, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's try and take it apart and see what we can learn from this. To start off with, I should point out that this is an ecstatic prophetic vision. So making sense out of it is going to be a challenge. But we're going to take it word by word here and talk about what this means. To start off with here, mare, here we have footnote A here, which tells us to look at our apparatus here for A, which says here the letter C is for cum, MLT is for multiple, and then MSS is manuscripts. So according to multiple manuscripts, and it tells us here, this includes the Septuagint, the Syriac, and certain Targum manuscripts, and the Vulgate. So a lot of ancient sources say that there should be a conjunction here, that this should be mare, not just mare. Okay, and it tells us to confer the ending of verse 15. We won't worry about that at the moment, but basically a lot of textual witnesses tell us that there should be a conjunction before this. Doesn't make a lot of translational difference, but probably there should be here and the appearance rather than just simply starting off with appearance. So mare here comes from the root ra'ah, which is to see, and then placing a mem on the front turns it into what's called a substantive, which becomes a appearance, a phenomenon, something that you can see. So like the root word means to see, this is something which is seen. So the appearance, and this right here would be a noun that's masculine in the construct state. So this is appearance of. And okay, so the appearance of the ophanim. Ophanim comes from ophan, which isn't that common of a word. It is used quite a lot in Ezekiel. It means a wheel of some kind, possibly the wheel of a vehicle. Where you see it used, it's sometimes the wheel of a chariot. 1 Kings 7 here. This is about every base had 4 brazen wheels. This is talking about furniture in the temple, which for the laver, which might be of significance here, that we're talking about a vision of the heavenly temple in Ezekiel, and 1 Kings 7 is talking about the earthly one. Isaiah 28 has here the idea that it is a cartwheel on a threshing instrument. Also possibly has temple implications, since the temple and threshing floors were connected in various ways. And in Nehemiah 3:2, we have here the noise of wheels, which of course often indicated warfare. But what we're talking about here is a word that doesn't show up that often, but it seems to be the wheel of a vehicle, like the wheel of a chariot. In fact, this is often thought of as the divine chariot. So the appearance of the wheels, and we have our simple conjunction right here, ma'asehem. So just like this comes from ra'ah with a mem on the front, this comes from asa, which is to do or make. And so this is a substantive here, something that is made, just like this is something that is seen. So this often is translated as work or labor, something that is produced. So, and their workmanship, that'd be a good translation, and their workmanship. Then we have the preposition kaf here, which means like or as. And then we have the word ayin. The word ayin is a fun word here. It means eye, and it's used quite a lot. It also means an artesian spring. If we scroll down through the lexicon here, we see that it means a lot of things here, but it also means an artesian spring, such as Ein Gedi being a popular example of that, one of my favorite places. And this probably had to do with the concept of light going out from the eye, which was the old world understanding of how eyes worked, being similar to the idea of water coming out of the spring and so forth. And so this says, like the eye of Tarshish. Now, Tarshish is almost certainly a proper noun of some kind here. And so since it's a proper noun, it's definite by nature, and that would make this word definite as well, since this is a construct. So like the eye of Tarshish, it could just as easily be translated as like an eye of Tarshish, but it doesn't really matter. But why Tarshish? Tarshish is a place mentioned many times in the Bible. It is a far off place. If you remember, Jonah hopped a boat ride to try and go get there. And it was a far off trading place where they traded a lot of goods. The Phoenicians particularly had trading outposts there. Well, we think that Tarshish is actually somewhere in Spain. And there is a lot of scholarly articles talking about that. If we scroll up here in our lexicon just a little bit to definition 1 for Tarshish, that's exactly where it points us to, trace back to the Iberian Peninsula. It's not been established exactly where it is, so forth, but it's generally agreed to be in Spain somewhere. And so definition 2 here is Tarshish, mentioned a few times here that it is possibly a precious stone, probably topaz. And then, interestingly, they're thinking it is a Spanish topaz, meaning that it was named after the place where it comes from. As to its origin as a precious stone, Tarshish should be identified with the Spanish topaz. Only gets referenced a few times, but it's saying here that their workmanship was like the eye of Tarshish. So this is probably indicating that it is incredibly fine, that it is precious and valuable and so forth. So we're talking here about the wheels that were made to look like a topaz or a shining jewel. And we have another conjunction here. Damut means a likeness or appearance. You'll notice that it's in Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image after our likeness. So this is saying here it is a likeness or a form. In other languages, it means the indistinct outline of a figure or object. The same shape as something is what it is indicating here. So this is talking about the shape or the outline, the physical form, most likely. This is a feminine singular, absolute, which looks like a feminine plural, but is not. So Damut is a singular noun that is feminine, but then we have Achad here. Achad is our number 1, but is our masculine number 1. So why? We have here footnote C. Actually, should jump back here to go to footnote B. Footnote B, their workmanship. Footnote B mentions that that word is missing from the Septuagint. And so they think this word might be added here. But then footnote C, chad, should be proposed to be achat, which is the feminine and would match this feminine noun here very nicely. But instead, it's a masculine singular. And so why is that? It tells us to confer chapter 10, verse 10. Okay, I was thinking this is referenced again. Maybe chapter 10, verse 10 has it right. So we jump over to chapter 10, verse 10. And it has it the same way, achad, a masculine singular. That's kind of weird, but it has a footnote A. So we look over here, confer chapter 1, verse 16. Thank you, BHS. You just sent us in a circle. So going back to 1:16, an appearance 1 to the 4 of them. So I think that 1 and to the 4 of them sort of go together. This isn't their appearance or anything like that. It's just and appearance or and likeness. 1 to the 4 of them. The sense of what we're getting here is that the 4 of them are of the same physical shape. The 4 of them are of one likeness. Now, interestingly, even though it got masculine for the number here, it manages to get a feminine plural for the suffix here. This is a nun. If it was a masculine plural, we would expect a mem. But the fact that this ends in on tells us that this is a third feminine plural suffix. So, and appearance 1 to the 4 of them. So the 4 of them looked alike, were of the same form, were physically similar. So we're talking about these 4 wheels and that they looked like an eye of Tarshish, and there was one likeness to the 4 of them. Ubarehim, this is and their appearances. So we have footnote D here, which tells us that this word is also missing from the Septuagint. So, and their appearances, uma'asehim, and their workmanship, ka'asher, literally like which. This is a phrase you see a lot in Hebrew. It means sort of according to, yeh. This is the third masculine singular of the to be verb. It means he will become or he has become. Accordingly, it has become or he has become ha'ofan batoch ha'ofan. The wheel, same as we had up here, the wheel in the midst of the wheel. So we have our bet here, which is a preposition, toch. These two are often seen together, and this is often thought of as a single word, batoch, in the midst of. So the wheel in the midst of the wheel in the middle of the wheel. Hard to say what we're really talking about here, and different translators have come up with many interpretations of this. I saw one who was trying to say that this said wheels at right angles. I have no idea how he got there, but this is saying the wheel in the midst of the wheel. Also, the significance of this is really hard to define. I've heard people argue that he's seeing Bohr's model of the atom, which makes no sense on many levels, including the fact that Bohr's model of the atom is not accurate and real atoms don't look anything like a wheel inside of a wheel. But many people have used a lot of imagination to translate this verse. The fact is, we are getting a vision from a prophet of what he's seeing in a heavenly temple. I think probably the most significant thing here is the idea that the wheels themselves appear to be things that are associated with certain temple furniture that we already mentioned back in 1 Kings 7, that these were part of the temple furniture. And since he's seeing in the temple, perhaps that is what's going on here, is this has something to do with the temple furniture and some connections there. I think that other verses mentioning the wheels mention that they were part of a threshing floor, could be significant because the circular motion of the threshing floor and the process there was tied to the temple in some way. We don't know exactly how, but the temple was built on an old threshing floor, and that seems to be of significance to the temple sites. So the wheels and their workmanship were like an eye of Tarshish, like a brilliant jewel from a far off land. And they had one appearance or one likeness for the four of them, and their appearance and their workmanship, accordingly, it became the wheel in the midst of the wheel. Make of that what you will. If you search YouTube, you'll find all sorts of things about biblically accurate angels. I just want to say, for the record, that is complete nonsense. We don't know what this actually would have looked like in the mind of the ancient prophet, and anything trying to portray this that does not resemble the artwork that would be contemporary to the composition of the text is just somebody's artwork and a pretty much meaningless guess. Anyway, that's our verse for today. Thank you for listening. If you like this, please like and subscribe and join us on Discord, and I'll see you in the next one.